Hello, my dosers and new people. This is a new knife review, and this one is a particular one that is actually not really a knife review, though I will be doing a knife review while I do it. It is an establishment of what I will call my new format. I put these categories together. They don't really seem to be in any sort of particular order. Though I'm sure if I stare at this paper long enough, I might come to some sort of conclusion about why I put them in this order. But I won't think too much about that. We'll just go ahead and go along with the video. So the knife I'm going to be using to explain this review process while I review it will be this little lovely right here. This is the Rike Knives Hummingbird. There you can see the Rike Knives logo. It has a Damascus blade. It is milled titanium, and I have the pocket or the keychain clip on it. So this is a knife I'll be using to go through. First things first, specs on the knife. It is the Rike Hummingbird, as I had mentioned. It is made in China. Overall length, these are little tiny squares, but we won't worry about that because we're not going to be doing that too much. 3.75 inches, 3¾ inches is the overall length from tip to tail on this one. The blade is 1.5 inches from the shoulder to the tip, and the handle itself is 2¼ inches from the very tip out here on the thing right up to that same said shoulder. The blade stock on this little sucker . 0.09 inches. Relatively thick for such a small little thing, but that's okay. It is still pretty thin pieces of steel that are going into these little babies. This particular color combination is one you won't find in most retailers. This was a drop exclusive. Most of them come in single solid color. This is my particular personal one. I have the multicolor rose, gold, blue, and green, which I think is actually quite pretty. It reminds me of hummingbirds themselves and the iridescence and all that sort of stuff, even though their iridescence comes from a much different process. However, the weight on this little baby, as you can see, it does have a pocket clip, which is quite functional for as small as it is. And the weight on this baby is 0.6 ounces, according to the manufacturer specs. I have not weighed it. Quite honestly, my fingertip scale says that's about right on the money. Again, this Damascus was once advertised as Damasteel. That has since stopped happening. It has since just become Damascus. From what I can tell on edge retention and sharpening, this is probably somewhere in the realm of 9CR18, though more likely VG10 or N690 based. Just my own anecdotal experience, this little sucker, is that it is about that. I have stropped this twice since I got it and opened many letters. Really, stropping happens when I hit a stapler or something, so that is really a thing. It is quite functional. It runs on ceramic bearings. It has a replaceable little detent overs travel stop insert that does the lock bar. Sorry, lock bar, not detent. My apologies. Lock bar insert that has the detent ball. You can see kind of right there where there's the bearing race and the little hole for the detent ball when it goes in there. This is heavily milled titanium, as you can see, which is, these are not cheap. Most places you'll see these at around 130 some odd dollars. Retail, you can find them for around $100 on some flash sales every now and then. They come in multiple colors. Quite honestly, all the colors you see here, this comes in a single color format. So there's a rose gold one, there's a blue one, there's a green one, and there's a plain titanium gray. It is actually quite a workable knife. This is not large. We'll go ahead and do a little bit of size comparisons here while we have the paper. One of the first ones I'm going to bring out that is extensively large for it is, but it is still something to see for what the size is. That is the Para 3. This little bad boy doesn't barely extends itself longer than the Para 3's blade entirety is, but there it is. It is kind of dwarfed by said knife. Another knife to throw in here, as long as we're doing something to dwarf it by, you will have the Benchmade Mini Griptilian, or in this case the Ritter Hogue, since the Mini Griptilian is a partially serrated and doesn't deserve to be on camera. Haha, no, it is a gift. And so this is the one I will be showing here, the Ritter Hogue. As you can see, it is quite tiny. In case anyone's wondering, this is not a large knife. It might be little, but it's cute. Anyhow, so there's those two right there. Little something more if you're wondering just a little bit just how close it is to a couple others here. We'll do a couple other standbys here. There's the Kershaw leak next to this bad boy. And in case you're wondering, that is a CPM 154 blade on the random leak body. This is the Rat 2 D2 in purple. I dyed myself. Really kind of tiny little sucker on there. It barely extends past some of these here blades. So as you can tell, this is not, again, not a large knife. Just in case there's one more thing, we'll just go a couple here just to get a little bit out there. Civivi Elementum. And the Kershaw Natrix Small. This happens to be the Copper D2. Kershaw Natrix is starting to get a little bit closer to this bad boy's size here. And now we'll get to some that are getting a little bit closer. We will get to this one here is the Dragonfly 2. Yep, getting a little bit closer. And then, of course, just to give it another little point that just how tiny this is a Spyderco Ladybug. Both of these are versions of these knives that come in the slate blue or whatever they call it, FRN, as well as the K390 blade steel, which is a fantastic tool steel. If you don't know, it is high wear resistance, low corrosion resistance, and pretty darn good toughness for the amount of wear resistance you get. However, stuff will rust. Your edge will rust. It is one of the cases where you have to make a nice fine balance between it being smooth so that it doesn't rust and still rigid enough, or rough enough, I should say, to have a little bit of teeth with all those carbides, because there's a lot of vanadium carbide in that steel. If you ever want to know anything about steels for knives or anything like that, first place I recommend you go, besides anyone you have already asked, is KnifeSteelNerds.com. Dr. Laren Thomas has it out there. By all means, go check it out. I do not always put a link in there, but you may hear me reference him several times. If you do not know, I will find a way to permalink. I'm new at this. As soon as I can, I will link to him. If nothing else, you will probably see his coffee mug in a video or two. All right, closest one to these right here is easily the Ladybug. This one they really get here. But the Ladybug, without a choice, is still a full, pretty much, I mean, you can see, it's a full 3-finger knife. Even on the tail there, it's fairly supported. Your thumb travels up, you get a good hold. That is not so with the Hummingbird. Hummingbird, part of the design of this knife, you can see right here, it is designed to be small. It's got a keychain on it. This thing is tiny. This is a 2-finger knife. I happen to get about 2.5 on it because my fingers are just sort of fat. But if you have anywhere bigger than that, you're 2 fingers. And once you turn it to try and use it, you're 2 fingers. It twists right into that second finger. And that's all you got. But you do have a good ramp. With the teeny, there's like 2 jimping. There's only jimping because there's more than one, but, oh no, sorry, there's 3. I'm not sure if you count it by the divots or the raised portion. Raised portion, there's 2 divots, there's 3. Whichever it is, there's only a couple of jimps to that jimping. But there's like one or two on the flipper tab too, so there you go. They took the attention of detail in the design of putting jimping on that itsy bitsy, teeny tiny, working flipper tab. One other thing about the design, I personally like this color combo. The rainbow one is the most aesthetically pleasing to me of them. The multicolors gives it something to look at. The design is actually quite nice for the fingers. They have a larger one called the Hummingbird Plus that is a full-size 3.5-inch blade version of this knife that I have owned a version of that I can say is quite good. It is unusually good for the size. It is very slicey. I got rid of mine because I never wanted to use it because I really liked it too much. They do have an N690 plain blade version, which I have considered getting that I might use, N690 being Bowler's version of VG10. So the design of this knife is obviously to be small. It is a keychain knife. It has a neck knife sheath that I don't have right here with me. It is actually in lockup right now in one of my cases that where all of the stuff I don't use of the knives goes and stays and locks up until I go get it. I do, however, use this one for something that is probably what it most often does, and this is most often a letter or package opener. Two little knives. It'll roll over, give it to you how you like it with only a whimper and not a complaint. You can slide it right through the envelope there. It'll open the mail. Like I said, I have sharpened this just a little bit and then stropped it. It will shave teeny tiny patches of hair. If I had hair that showed up on camera, I would show you. You can see it there, just a little bit of fuzz where there's red. But yes, it is easily takes a razor sharp edge, and it holds it for long enough for, I would say, well over a couple hundred of letters. It's pretty good edge retention, so I don't doubt the authenticity of the steel. I just believe that it is not damaged steel. It is probably one of the VG10 variants that comes out of China. As a small design, if you are like me, I have put this along with that little teeny tiny clip into a slack pocket where they have the coin pockets. This fits nicely. The clip keeps it in there, and it stays in there as a little tiny pocket if you really can't carry anything else and you like to always have some sort of cutting tool on you. This is a beautiful little secret hideaway knife in that respect. As a keychain knife, I actually do not use it there. I use that much as other people would use it as a lanyard, in that it gives me just that little bit that I can kind of tuck in there and get a little bit of traction if I'm trying to. It gives me that little bit to just grab my third finger a hold of on that ring and get just a little bit of extra grip. So that's what I use it for, much like how other people would use a lanyard on other knives. I don't want to ding up this pretty titanium with a bunch of snail trails and keychain marks. As a shirt pocket knife, it works great. As a fifth pocket knife, where if you have a primary carry, a wallet, and you use a fifth pocket knife as a backup carry, this is a nice little pretty one to use. You can often hand it to people. It's not scary. It'll do most jobs that most people need, unless you need a heavy-duty knife, which is probably what you have a primary carry for. And you can go ahead and do that. It's not bad. The aesthetics on it are give and take. It's tiny. But they do a pretty good job of making a tiny knife look cool. Kind of actually, it looks almost angry. It's like an angry hummingbird. I kind of like it. You know, I actually really like the aesthetics of it. The design of it, for what it is pretty good. It's got a slicey blade. It's got a nice, fairly well-balanced handle. It's got somewhere to grab. It's only 2 screws holding it, and they are tiny. I believe they are T5, if I remember correctly. And it's got a clip. And it is fully functional. Mechanics of it work great. It is not drop shut. The weight of this blade does not do it, but man, it's snappy when it opens. You can hear it. It's got that little click, but it's smooth bearings on shut, centered and everything. It just is too light of a blade to do it. Now, So the design is good. The aesthetics I particularly like, especially this multicolored version. It's why I bought it. It is my particular knife. The mechanics work for a little tiny knife, and it does cut what like it's supposed to. That gets me to the knife. And it's just so you want to know about the categories of the design, I'm going to give it a, well, quite honestly, I'm going to give it an okay. It is a tiny knife. I'll get to the nice here in a minute, so that is as to why that has a caveat. But I'll give it an okay despite how much I like it. The aesthetics, I'll give it a Goldilocks on that one. That one works for me. I like the aesthetics. I think it looks cool for a little knife. It's got a uniqueness. It's got kind of an angry eyeball look to it, along with a wing that really it identifies as a hummingbird. I can see hummingbird when I look at this knife called a hummingbird. I like that. So I'll give that one a Goldilocks on that. The mechanics of this knife are fantastical. For a teeny tiny knife, this thing has 5 little bearings. It is super smooth. And this thing, as long as it is almost impossible to put your finger on that frame lock, the clip really gives you a place to just really put your finger every time. And it snaps every time. The little deployment hole isn't one. It is there to look cool, and I think that it does that job well. So I'll give that one a fantastical. Noteworthy points on this. It's tiny. In case that hasn't been mentioned before, this little knife is not large. If you can't tell that by the specs and everything else, I don't know what else to tell you. However, for its intended purpose, to be a keychain knife, letter opener, backup knife, a pretty little art knife that isn't going to scare people, something you can have or pull out either to give people to use or to kind of, just utilize as that secondary knife. It's small. It'll do the job. It's not scary while still looking cool. It's a little expensive for that, which gets to the cost and or value. But if you're the kind of person who wants something like that, and you want something that's got that kind of stuff, you have a purpose for it, and you have the expectations from it that this is not going to be something you are going to be taking out on the job site and chopping up stuff with. This is a letter opener, package opener. This is the kind of thing you get when you want to open up plastic. You want to have something on the go or on your keychain that can do it, or you have possibly even, I hate to say it, but a girlfriend, guy friend, anything else, or someone just might want this kind of pretty thing on their keychain because it is a cute little novelty item. But that's what it is. It's a novelty knife. A really, really, really good one. As long as that's what you're expecting from it, you won't be disappointed. That's what I'm going to get to. For what it is, it's nice. It's what it wants to be. If you expect this to be a falcon instead of a hummingbird, you will be disappointed. If, however, you want a cute little knife that'll fit in your pocket, keychain, other things, be the neck knife you never thought you needed, probably never would miss, this isn't going to hurt. This is a good little thing. I purchased it because I do like small knives and I do like 5th pocket knives. And I also like ones that, for me, I can take to work. I work in an office. I can take to a job or something like that. It's not going to scare people. I still have a knife. I can cut open packages, boxes, envelopes, all sorts of stuff. I can do all of my office handy dandy knife tasks with this little baby. And I can put it in a slack pocket where it's not seen, where a lot of people would normally put change, but I don't know who carries change quite as much anymore, but I don't carry change in it. I would carry this little sucker. I have also adapted my carry now to include a Cold Steel Lucky one in my wallet, but that is a different video. So overall, the design, okay. For its intended purpose, it's great, but overall, as a general purpose knife, it's not. So that gives it somewhere in the middle. It's okay for the design. As far as the finer points of the design, the aesthetics, again, Goldilocks. I like the way this looks. I think it's cute, and I think it's quite pretty. I like the colors. I think it shows quite a bit of Rike Knives' capability of being a very precise manufacturer that they can do something this small and this outstanding. The mechanics work flawlessly for what it is. If you expect it to be drop shut, you don't understand physics. It's easy to fail because it is a tiny little blade, but it's always smooth. If you give it a good light switch flick, it opens every time. So the aesthetics and mechanics of this are right on. They are fantastical. It is Goldilocks and good to go. It fits in a couple fingers. It'll open up letters and packages. It'll take care of most of what you need to. It'll take bubblegum out of hair in a pinch if you have to. But for something that is what it is, if that's all you're expecting out of the intended purpose, this is a pretty good knife that costs a little bit of money. If you can find it on sale, you'll get a titanium frame lock flipper with Damascus steel that looks pretty cool. Right, that solid etching. I have taken this knife apart. That goes all the way through. That solid. It's not etched on the top, but it's pretty good. You got the overstop as well as the over travel stop, so you've got the replaceable steel insert. This thing can last a while. You can sit and flip this thing. It's got all the key points for a good knife. It's just tiny, so that design, limiting its functionality to something that's small by intent of the design, to me makes it okay, though for its intended purpose, it's absolutely fantastical. But overall, I like this little knife, and I hope you guys are enjoying this new format. You're not going to see this paper. This is just the first one, so everyone can know what to expect. You can always reference it. This will be the little knife review that shows what I hope I can continue to do. So thank you, everybody. This has been your dose of Drew. Watch it twice. Comment as much as you like. Be mindful of side effects, and remember to subscribe. Thank you.